Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be my Goodreads Choice Award show. For anyone that doesn't know, Goodreads has this Choice Award every year at the end of the year, and everyone has some strong opinions about how the winners are chosen, basically popular vote. So I decided to do this reading challenge where I read the nominees and the winners for a few different categories, and then I do my own version a year later to let you know which ones should have won, in my opinion. It's not very serious, but it's always a lot of fun. A lot of these books were actually kind of disappointing, so I will be making some changes for next year. A few categories that I will just not read anything from anymore, but I still think it's important to share my reviews. I'm basically being a filter here, letting you know which books are worth the read or not. Bear with me, it's going to be a long video. It's actually probably going to be 2 parts. So part 1. So the first category is fiction. I read 3 books in that category. 2 I actually read last year and only 1 this year. So let's go through them and I'll let you know which one should have won. First one that I booked was The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I had read The Handmaid's Tale and enjoyed it, kinda. I find that her ideas are amazing, like straight up genius, but the writing just doesn't work for me. But I had read The Handmaid's Tale, open-minded because I had heard great things about it. And part of me was trying to convince myself that, the writing style is just reflecting the fact that her life is kind of boring. But I didn't really enjoy myself reading it. But since, the second book, the sequel, was the winner in this category, I decided to give it a shot. And I feel like I probably have the unpopular opinion here because the rating overall on Goodreads is pretty high, although they do tend to be high in general. I just really didn't care for it. I did enjoy some of the information, the background information, especially about the specific character, but I didn't enjoy myself. And I do tend to rate my books based on my enjoyment or how much I learned or something. So yeah, I didn't really care for it. In my opinion, it was a miss. So the second one that I read was the one that was in second place, which is Normal People. I read this less than a month ago. I wanted to read it because of the hype. I feel like fiction especially, I feel like I see these books everywhere. Like they're the ones you would see like in the magazine, you know what I mean? You see in a bunch of lists of new books that you need to read ASAP, and this became a TV show. A lot of people enjoyed a TV show, so I decided to read the book, and whoever was responsible for the marketing of this book deserves a raise because they managed to make over 400,000 people read this incredibly boring story. That is all I have to say. I don't know if some people rated it after just watching the TV show, if actually 400,000 people did read it, because if you go on Goodreads, you will see people either gave it 1 star or 5 stars. There seemed to be pretty much no in between. I was bored throughout the whole book. I did go through it as an audiobook, which is, I think, the only reason I finished it. I did feel like I was accelerating the speed towards the end because I couldn't do it anymore. I like to joke around that I don't really care about people. That's why I don't really read, biography or something. It's more of the books that I will seek that specific one instead of just reading everything and just, pick and choosing whichever I like. I just avoid them unless, And this one is very character driven, kind of coming of age of these two normal people. And I don't even mind coming of age. I don't even mind, the struggle of being a teenager and a young adult. Nothing happens. Literally nothing happens. The writing was not great either. I know some people, I went ahead and read a couple of reviews. Some people put some quotes, and I recommend you go and check that out because it's painful. It's straight up painful. I have nothing to say about this book. It was painful. That is all. I gave it 1 star. I don't do that super often, and it deserved it. I did say I was going to watch a TV show. I'm not going to now because I'm mad. The only other book that I've read in that category was The Most Fun We Ever Had, which I had seen also everywhere, on Twitter. It was pushed a lot, family drama story. I did not like it. Super memorable. Did I even finish it? I don't think I finished it. I think I DNF'd it. The fact that I don't even know need to check is not a good thing. So I think it's pretty clear at this point that I'm personally not choosing a winner in that category. I hadn't voted on anything because I hadn't read enough books or anything that was worth including at the time. But since, again, I haven't read anything else that was worth it, but I feel like I keep seeing these books everywhere, or I did at the time. The only one that was still on my TBR was On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. So yeah, fiction did not work for me this year. Next category, we have Best Mystery and Thriller. And I have read I have read 9. I had read a couple last year as they were coming out, and then I finished a couple more this year. So between 9 books, I feel like it's more fair to try and find a winner than reading, 1 or 2. So let's go through them. So the winner was The Silent Patient, which has currently over 500,000 people ratings. So 500,000 people at least read this book, which is kind of crazy to me. It is sold as a psychological thriller. Premise seemed pretty interesting. You find this woman who killed her husband and hasn't spoken a word since. And you have this psychiatrist, I think, that is trying to, make her speak. Personally, I didn't really care for the characters. I thought that the twist towards the end was really obvious. So I think overall it was just a pretty disappointing book. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars, which again, I don't do that often, although there are a couple in this video. I also went through that one as an audiobook. You're going to see it's a team for a lot of these books just because the waiting list is much shorter at my library. That's the only reason. And I didn't want to commit to buying the book unless it was good, So unfortunately for me, this was just not worth the hype. I don't get it whatsoever. I feel like if you haven't read a lot of thrillers, you might enjoy that one. The one in second place was My Sister, the Serial Killer, which quite frankly, I'm a little surprised that it is in this category because it seems to be almost a bit more family drama than really like a mystery thriller. The book actually happens in Nigeria and made me realize I haven't read any mystery thrillers that have happened there. So that was more unique. And the main character, her sister, is a serial killer. Basically, she dates men and then kills them and then calls her sister to help her clean it up. And then one day, the sister decides to go after men that she was into, so family drama, that's kind of what I mean. It was really, really short. I have mixed feelings about that one. I did enjoy, again, that it was unique. The premise was interesting, but it felt a little bit like a skeleton of a story. Like, I needed more meat to be more satisfied with it. So overall, for me, it was like a 3 stars. Not bad, not amazing. Then we have The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I have read quite a few of her books at this point, and I find that it's a theme for her that she does really great atmospheric books, but her endings are kind of... And I feel like a lot of people seems to be commenting the same thing, so I'm not alone here. But in this one, you follow this woman who, the book literally starts by her writing a letter to a lawyer trying to help her out because she was a nanny. She went to this house, far, far away to take care of the kids, and then one of them died under her care and in mysterious circumstances. Let's go with that. So the format was interesting. Again, very atmospheric. You're wondering, weird house. Think past nannies, leaving the house because it's haunted kind of thing. That was good, but I can't spoil it, but the ending was, again, disappointing. I feel like, again, mystery thrillers, it's either a hit or a miss with the ending usually. And so I ended up giving it a 3 stars, also 3.25. It was a solid, mystery thriller, but nothing special, and I feel like the ending could have been better. Then in fourth place, I also read that one, and it is The Lost Man by Jane Harper. I read a couple of her books at this point, and I think I'm realizing they aren't for me. They all happen in Australia. I do recommend going through them as audiobooks if you enjoy those because the accents are great. You're following mysterious death happening basically in the desert, cattle's, ranch stuff, which the book will make you very thirsty. So maybe during the winter when it's cold is the best time to read it. But I just found myself not really caring, and whenever the twist happened at the end, a big reveal of who did it kind of thing, I was just like, okay, that's what happened. So in that case, it was just a me thing. I think the reviews in general are very positive, so I think it was just me not connecting with the author. I promise there is one book in here that I did enjoy, but the rest were very disappointing, and I just want to share with you my thoughts because the reason I didn't like it might be the reason that you would. So bear with me. Oh my god, I didn't realize how many I didn't care about. Then we have An Anonymous Girl, which quite frankly, I had to go back and read my review because I couldn't remember much about it. It's one of those thrillers that I call them domestic thrillers because I feel like they're all the same, alcoholic woman, the other woman, the husband, cheating. I don't care about those. And I went into that one not knowing anything. It was just like one of the new releases at my library, so I just, grabbed it. And it's one of them that in my opinion wasn't really memorable. I don't remember much. I have to read my review, which is literally just saying that I have mixed feelings about this thriller. That the premise was original and intriguing, but I'm not sure yet how I feel about the second half with the twist and the ending, and I don't remember. So, not a good sign. I do have a good memory though. I don't understand why I didn't remember that one whatsoever. The next one is also one of the books that, in my opinion, it's a me thing, me having the unpopular opinion, because it is quite popular, and it is The Whisperman by Alex North. They're saying, suspenseful thriller, kind of family drama with a serial killer. Basically, serial killer whispers to children through their windows at night and then, you know, kidnaps and murders them. And again, it was one of those situations where I got to the end and I was just like, okay, that's what happened. So no feelings here, which is, it makes for a poor review, but I just have nothing to say about it. The next one, I do have strong feelings about it. It is Lock Every Door by Réka Zsigrai. I have read all of his books so far, and this is the one that made me the angriest because I really enjoyed the first part of it. You're following this character who is down on her luck, and she gets this amazing gig. She's going to be apartment sitting at this really amazing building in New York where she gets a ton of money to do a job that, you know, she would basically do for free. And then she realizes that the people are being weird and things happen, you know, kind of haunted. You don't really know what's going on. But I have to say, the main character was the dumbest on the planet. Like, literally so... And yet she managed to, you know, piece things out together, and it made no sense. And the ending is, again, something that people are going to love or hate. I absolutely hated it. It made me feel cheated, like a bait and switch. And I'm keeping it vague again to keep this video spoiler free, but super mad and disappointed about that one because, again, strong beginning and a complete letdown. And the main character, his female characters are always the weakness of his book, to be honest. So finally, one that I thought was good. And it is Miracle Creek by N.G. Kim. I feel like it's closer to Celeste Ng kind of writing and even story. They're like almost more fiction really than a mystery thriller. In this one, you're following this immigrant family. I thought they were Korean, but I can't see it in the description. Yes, I put it in my review. So they are Korean. And then they own a facility, and one day it explodes mysteriously. There are two people that died, and then, you know, you're trying to go back and forth to try and figure out what happened and who did it, who had motives, because a few people could have. And yeah, it's more, I feel like, family drama really than a true mystery, but I do recommend it, again, especially if you did enjoy Little Fire Everywhere, or what was her other book? Everything I Never Told You by, again, Celeste Ng. I found that her writing style and even the overall mystery was pretty similar, so I did enjoy that one. I believe I gave it 4 stars. And that cover is gorgeous. Last but not least in this category, damn, The Chain, which, again, super interesting premise that was just not well done. The premise was unique and interesting. Basically, this woman, her child is kidnapped, and in order to get her back, she has to give them money and then kidnap another child, and, you know, continuing the chain. And if she doesn't do it properly, her kid is killed. Interesting, but I swear, like, the second half was completely pointless. I feel like the author tried to go like too big and wasn't able to really wrap things up. And it almost reminds me of, you know, when you're a kid and you're writing a story for like a class, they tell you to keep it more simple and just, again, to not go too big. I feel that that's exactly what happened in here, and it wasn't necessary. Like, it would have been better as a short story, I feel like, than this novel. If I have to choose a winner, no one's going to be surprised here, Miracle Creek. It is the one that actually I had voted on because I had read a couple already. And even though it's not, you know, 5 stars for me, it was still a pretty solid one, and by far the best one that I've read that were nominees. Next category, we have Best Historical Fiction. I read 2 books, and although it's not really my usual genre, I have a vote. The first book that I read was so raved about, and it was the winner in that category, and it is Daisy Jones and the Six. I went through that one as an audiobook because it was highly recommended to me that way, and I agree, if you are going to read it and you like audiobooks, do it, because a lot of it is told in interview format, which makes it good, compelling, and it's easy to go through it, but it was way too short. You're following this fictional group, Daisy Jones and the Six. You kind of learn how they became that group and, you know, stuff that happens, and interesting premise. I also thought it was like a skeleton of a story. If you had added like 100 pages, I probably would have enjoyed it a ton more, because it just felt really flat towards the end, because it was just like, this is it, this is done. So yeah, not a bad book, I just wanted more. So in my opinion, it should not have won. But it probably did, just because the author was really popular after writing The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which was definitely fantastic. The other book that I did end up reading, it wasn't the one I was planning on reading. I was actually originally planning on reading The Huntress, but didn't have time to get around to reading that one. But my library had the audiobook of The Nickel Boys, and it's a very, very short book. It's about 200 pages. So it was a very fast audiobook to go through, and I was not mentally prepared for it, to be honest. I guess you could call this a coming of age kind of story following this main character who I guess you could call this a coming of age kind of story following this main character who goes to a segregated school during the civil rights movement, and you can imagine the horrible conditions, and there's a back and forth between present time and then, you know, then. And I feel like it's very easy to forget how recent these events are. And it was really painful to read, but in a good way, I guess. So in my opinion, between this one and Daisy Jones and the Six, this one was the one that was the most impactful. I do recommend you check it out if you are interested. I've read it a couple months ago and I feel like I'm still affected by it. Definitely something that was worth a read. Next category is best fantasy. I love fantasy and I ended up reading 8 books in this category, so I can definitely choose a winner. As all of the other ones, I'm going to go in order they were in, so ups and downs in ratings. The first one, the winner, which I was honestly very mad about, is Night House by Leigh Bardugo. I believe whenever I chose which books were going to be the ones I was reading, I mentioned it that there were more votes than ratings. So people had voted for this book without reading it. I'm sure of it just because of the author. You know, she's famous and well known for having written Six of Crows duology, which is why people say that this is a popularity contest and not, you know, based on the books. Plus, nobody has read the 20 books that are nominees, right? Anyway, so this was her first adult book, I believe, and interesting premise. There is a murder happening on a university ground. That's the word I was looking for. And it seems like, you know, maybe paranormal. And the main female character kind of seems to see ghosts kind of thing. Interesting premise. I don't even mind an unlikable main character, but her was just way further. I mainly care about this side character who literally carried this whole story. Like without him, I would have never finished this. The mystery, you know, was revealed. It was just okay, and then there's another like 2 hours whatever to read that is completely pointless. I thought it was a standalone. Apparently there's going to be a series. There's no way I'm continuing. No way. I feel so harsh. There's also a problematic scene which I don't even want to talk about it, to be honest. It was just ridiculous. So even though the premise was interesting, you know, paranormal school setting, which I really like, magic, and Darlington, basically, the character that I told you was saving the whole book. Even this could not save it for me. No. With that said, it's definitely 50-50. People either absolutely hate it like me or they love it. So you pick it up if you are intrigued. The second book, I also don't understand why it's in second place. The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I recently read this. I included it in a reading vlog. I was doing a reading challenge where I was giving like a second chance to some authors where I didn't like the first book by them, but I was excited to read another one. And, you know, I had read The Night Circus and I thought the writing was great. The premise was interesting, but I was kind of just about the overall story, mainly because the ending wasn't really good and it was more character driven. Not even. It was more like setting driven than anything else. So I decided to give her a second chance, which ended up being my last chance because she's just not for me. If you like really, really lyrical world building, that feels almost pointless. Oh. This video is starting to make me feel like a mean, but it was just such a pointless book. Like, story went nowhere. Okay, let's start by the beginning. You follow this male character who is in school and one day you realize that a book is about him and adventure begins, which, interesting. But it went in so many weird directions. There's a lot of like short stories in between the main story, which, you know, are they linked? How are they linked? A lot of characters, and I just cared about none of it. I can agree that the writing is beautiful, but that's the only thing I can tell you about the book. I don't know, like, I was reading it, I think the vlog I was saying, like I was 50% into it, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm reading still. Like, it's not going anywhere. Like, I read words, they were pretty, but... So, yeah, I don't get the hype at all. Next book, I did really like it. Yay! The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. This was my first book by the author. I know a lot of people know, I think, The Bone Season by her. Still have to get around to reading it. I do have it on my shelf. This is a standalone fantasy, and it's about 900 pages. There is a ton, and I mean a ton of world building. So definitely be in the mood for something a little bit slower that you really have to immerse yourself into it. But again, because it's a standalone, I'm fully okay with it because I hate when books are stretching, 10 book series for no reason. You're following this story that is actually happening in a queendom. So magic, which is really interesting. It's essentially a battle between good and evil, and there are dragons. You're following, I believe, 4 main point of views, and they all go in different directions to merge towards the end. And you might care about some of them more than others, but I still overall really enjoyed all of them. I believe the author actually mentioned that she will have companion novels, which I'm hoping it's going to be about the witches that are mentioned, because I want to know. It was so interesting. My only complaint about it is that I feel like some of the deaths happen so quickly that I didn't really have time to care. And the epic battle at the end that you're waiting for all throughout the book happens really quickly. But these are the only things that I think are worth mentioning in the, cons category. So overall, fantastic book. I do recommend it. A strong contender for the win here. The next one that I read, Middle Game by Shannon McGuire. I was also very excited to read that one because it's an adult fantasy. She tends to write a lot of YA fantasy. I know a lot of people know the Wayward Children series, which I find her writing is beautiful, but I found that because they're all like 100 and something pages, they're too short. I want more kind of thing. And she came out with this one, so I was super excited to read it. The superpower is super interesting. You're following twins. One of them is good with languages and the other one with numbers, and play with some interesting science-y concepts. The main characters are called Roger and Dodger. So like, cut me some slack here. I don't know, the author just has a knack for creating really interesting world. And like in theory, again, it sounds good. Like in twins linked by quantum entanglement. That sounds super interesting. I just found that the direction of the book was kind of vague and didn't really care about the ending. It turns out it's also a series, and I'm not going to continue. I do think it's possibly, again, a case of it's me, not the book. I do think a lot of people did enjoy it, but for me it was a huge miss. Did not care for it. And don't recommend it as an audiobook, by the way, because some of the narrators, the voices, the characters that they're doing, terrible, terrible. Finally, some more good books. The Dragon Republic, which was book 2 in the Poppy War series, which was... I know some people had some issues with the ending, like the second half of the first book, because it starts like military or, magical-ish school and then goes into this war. So people were kind of weirded out by the flip. I was okay with it. The second book, it's definitely epic war. Magic system is super interesting, based on gods that are basically driving you crazy the more power you use. And it goes like a big war. The world gets so much bigger, which was interesting. And I'm so excited for book 3 to just see how much bigger it becomes. So yeah, a bunch of epic battles. The characters are really attaching. Some of them, it's heartbreaking to follow them. You're shipping some people, but nothing really happens if you're not big on romance. And yeah, overall, really, really enjoyed it. I believe I gave it 5 stars, but it was a very, very solid book, and I'm very excited to read it because literally I'm starting now, book 3. So very excited about that one. Then there is also Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff, which is the last book in the Nevernight series, which throughout the series, for anyone that hasn't read it, not a spoiler, you're following through the story through the eyes of a narrator, which you don't know who it is, and they're very sarcastic, making fun of people, and you're just always a little intrigued because, it's in the back of your mind the whole time, and then you finally learn that in the last book, which, not a spoiler. So imagine assassin school, epic revenge story, interesting magic system and world building, and the last book was also pretty solid. I'm trying not to spoil it. The ending, some bits of it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Mistborn ending. If you have read both, do you agree or not? So it left me a little, because it was my least favorite part in both of them, but overall a pretty solid book. I did overall really, really enjoy it. Then Magic for Liars. The cover is bam right in your face. I was super excited because, again, magical school. It's just such a good premise for me. I will read pretty much anything that has that concept. There is a murder. Basically, the main female character, her sister dies in mysterious circumstances in the library of the magical school, and she's hired to try and solve it. Although, again, the premise was interesting, I found myself not really caring that much about the characters, and the ending I did find was a letdown. I cared more about some of the side characters once again. And to be honest, I ended up being kind of bored, which with that premise sounds ridiculous, but I did. Last but not least, I also read Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence, which was also the last book in this series, which I'm starting to realize that I possibly have just a thing for ending series in a note. Maybe my expectations are too high. This one, the book, in my opinion, was a bit too short. It was 300 pages, but like written pretty big. The series overall is really epic. The main character you're following goes to this magical school run by nuns who are like badass fighting magical nuns, which, yes, please. I appreciate how, first off, the magic system is really interesting, how a lot of them you have relationships that are complex, how it's not heavy on the romance, which cannot stand that. Usually I feel like, you know, bait and switch. It seems like it's going to be fantasy, but turns out the whole thing is romance. Not the case here. There are some mysteries though that I feel like weren't answered in the ending, which could have. I'm assuming there will be more books in this world that will answer that, but I just like my endings to be satisfying, you know, like you've asked a bunch of questions, please give me the answers now. So yeah, a lot of epic battles. I did overall enjoy it, but again, I wanted a little bit more with that one. It's a really tough one. I feel like for once I have a couple contenders, you know, for like Holy Sister, Dark Dawn, Dragon Republic, and the Priory or the Orange Tree could all have won in my opinion, and I would have been okay with it. If I have to choose, I think I'm gonna go with the Dragon Republic. Feels nice to actually have to think about it and not hate everything. Super quickly, best romance. The winner was Red, White, and Royal Blue. I'm not a romance person, but I had told myself if that was the one that was winning, I would give it a shot just because everyone was raving about it. Quite frankly, just not my jam. It's 100% just not my jam. So nothing against it. It's just, we didn't click. Since we're talking about fiction, let me include YA fiction right now. I read 2 books in that category. The first one was 5 Feet Apart, which was the winner. I generally believe that people voted for it because of the movie or something. Like, there is no way. I believe it was one of them that I had more vote than rating, so it made no sense that it won. And I believe it was written after the movie. Was it like a script play? Anyway, I don't remember exactly what happened. It was a year ago. But beautiful cover. That's all I have to say. But seriously, I'm starting to feel a little heartless when I read more and more books that are like teenage girl that is sick and falls insta-love story. And I don't care. Like, I just feel like it's trying to make me cry to the point where I don't care anymore. You know what I mean? I feel like it's been done so many times, and the insta-love and the ridiculous ending just... It was a huge no for me, will not watch the movie. And the only other book that I ended up reading in this category was Two Can Keep a Secret, which I had read because I thought it was the second book in the other series of the author and just grabbed it without thinking. It turns out it's not. It's a standalone YA mystery. I feel like it's one of those books that I probably would have enjoyed more if I had read it, you know, at 14 than now. There's nothing wrong with it. In my opinion, that would be like the perfect definition of a mediocre book. You know, it's fine. I'm just not the target audience, and I do think it's very unmemorable. I had to go back and read a little bit about it to even remember what it was about. Although I didn't read it this year, I read it last year. My review was basically saying no real complaints about it, but I can't say it kept me on my toes or that I didn't see the twist comings. You know, it was just whatever. But I didn't even remember. I said the main character is called Ellery. That sounds exactly like Hellery, which is what I've been calling celery because I hate it with passion. And I didn't even remember that. So yeah, in this situation, I'm just not voting. So I think this is going to be it for part 1. I hope you are enjoying it so far. Thumbs up, subscribe. Like you saw, overall a little disappointing year reading wise, except for fantasy. I read a couple good ones there. This is why I'm doing some changes for next year. And let's be real, it's not really my fault. You know, those are just the books that were published in 2019. So I will be putting more videos on the screen, including part 2 as soon as it's up. I will also link it in the description box. I will see you soon.